The bass at first, low, steady, vibrating to the pavement beneath Marcus Reed's shoes. He adjusted the headphones around his neck and scanned the crowd from behind the DJ booth. String lights flickered above the outdoor block party. Faces glowing, bodies swaying. Laughter rolled through the warm night air, layered over the music he'd spent weeks perfecting for this moment. Then the music cut. Not gradually, not accidentally. Dead silence. Marcus looked up as a uniformed police officer stepped on the edge of the stage, one hand already reaching for the mixer. The officer didn't look at him at first. He looked at the crowd, irritated, tight-jawed, as if there was something spilled he'd been sent to clean up. "Turn it off," the officer said. "Now." Marcus swallowed. "Sir, we have a permit." Sound check was approved. The officer leaned closer, close enough Marcus could smell coffee and impatience. His voice dropped, sharp and quiet. "Don't argue with me. You people always push it." The words landed heavier than the silence. Around them, phones rose. Whisper spread. Someone booed, then stopped. Marcus felt heat crawl up his neck. Not fear, something colder, something familiar. He stepped back from the booth, hands open, measured. "I'm just doing my job," he said. The officer finally met his eyes. His stare hardened, dismissive. "Then do it somewhere else." A hand closed around Marcus's wrist. Firm, public, unnecessary. The crowd gasped. A camera flash went off. Marcus looked past the officer, toward the stage lights now dimmed, the music gone, the moment stolen. And somewhere behind the barricades, a city official answered a phone call that would change everything, but not fast enough to stop what came next. The silence felt heavier than the music ever had. Marcus Reed stood frozen behind the DJ booth, one hand still hovering over the mixer, as if sound might return if he touched it gently enough. The crowd stared back at him, confused, restless, waiting. Somewhere near the front, a woman laughed awkwardly, then stopped when no one joined her. The police officer didn't wait. "Step away from the equipment," he said, loud now, official. His hand rested near his radio, thumb tapping once, impatient. Marcus exhaled slowly. He lifted his hands, palms visible, a move he'd learned long before music paid his bills. "Sir, we were approved until 10. The permit's posted by the stage." "I don't care what you think you have," the officer replied. "You're done." Behind him, the event coordinator whispered urgently into a phone. Two volunteers avoided eye contact. A few people filmed openly now. Phone steady, hungry. Marcus stepped back. The lights above the stage flickered, as if unsure what role they were meant to play without sound. "There's no need to shut it down like this," he said. "We can lower the volume. We already did after the first notice." The officer laughed once, sharp. Funny how it's always a misunderstanding. Marcus felt it then, not anger, not fear, the quiet calculation. Every word here would be remembered, every movement judged. He nodded, slow and deliberate, as if agreeing might make this end. "I'm cooperating," he said. The officer moved closer anyway. Too close. The crowd noticed. A murmur rippled outward. "You DJs think rules don't apply," the officer said. "Just noise and attitude." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I'm a professional. I was hired." "That's so." The officer glanced at the equipment, the cables, the laptop. "Looks like a setup anyone could bring." A hand landed on Marcus's wrist. Firm. Public. The officer didn't yank. He didn't need to. The message was clear enough. "Step down," he ordered. Someone shouted. He didn't do anything. The officer turned toward the voice. "Ma'am, back up." Marcus gently pulled his arm free. Slowly, carefully. He nodded again, the way men like him learned to nod when resistance only made things worse. "I'm stepping down," he said. "There's no reason to touch me." The officer's eyes narrowed. "Watch your tone." Marcus descended the stage steps as the crowd parted, unsure whether to let him pass or protect him. He felt eyes on his back, on his skin, on the space he took up simply by existing there. Behind him, the officer addressed the crowd. "Event is suspended until further notice." Anyone causing problems will be removed. Removed, not asked, not redirected. Marcus stood near the barricades now, the music equipment abandoned like a crime scene. His phone buzzed. A text from one of his artists. "What's going on?" "I'm seeing clips." He didn't respond. The event coordinator approached, voice trembling. "I'm so sorry. We'll fix this." "He's not supposed to." "It's okay," Marcus said. He surprised himself by meaning it. "Just do what you need to do." The coordinator nodded, relief and guilt mixing on his face. He hurried away. Marcus watched the officer laugh with another cop. Relax now. Job done. The crowd began to thin. Disappointment settled like dust. For a moment, Marcus imagined grabbing the mic, telling them who he was, what he owned, how wrong this was. He imagined the officer's face changing. He stayed silent, because power, he knew, never showed itself when it begged, and because somewhere already this silence was turning into evidence. By morning, the silence had turned into noise. Marcus woke to his phone vibrating against the hotel nightstand, the screen lighting up with notifications stacked like bricks. Missed calls, tags, messages that started with "Is this you?" and ended with "Man, I'm sorry." He sat up slowly, elbows on his knees, and opened the first video. The clip began with music, his music, then cut hard to the officer's voice. "Turn it off. Now!" The camera angle was bad, cropped tight, context stripped away. The caption underneath read, "DJ refuses police orders at city event." Marcus let the phone drop onto the bed. "Of course," he murmured. A knock sounded at the door. "Marcus." It was Lena, the event coordinator. Her voice already carried apology, the kind that came from someone who knew the system would swallow them whole. "Can we talk?" He opened the door. Lena stood there with a tablet clutched to her chest like a shield. "They're saying the permit didn't cover amplified sound past 9, she said quickly, that there were multiple complaints. Marcus leaned against the doorframe. "You were there when we submitted it." I know. She pulled up a document, swiping frantically. "But the officer filed a report saying you ignored verbal warnings. That you were," she hesitated. "Uncooperative," Marcus finished. Lena nodded. "Yes." Marcus smiled without humor. "Funny. I cooperated so hard I disappeared." She flinched. "I'm trying to fix this. I called the city events office. They said it's under review." "Which means?" Marcus asked. "Which means nothing happens unless it becomes a problem." Marcus's phone buzzed again. A call this time. He answered. "Marcus, it's Theo." His lawyer said, voice calm, practiced. "I've seen the footage." "And?" Marcus asked. "And it's ugly. Not because of what you did. Because of what they're saying you did." "They're lying," Marcus said. "I know," Theo replied. "But right now, their report is the official record." Marcus closed his eyes. "What are my options?" Official complaint, public statement, or silence. Silence again. Theo continued. "If you file a complaint, expect pushback, internal review, delays. If you go public, they'll frame it as you playing the race card. If you stay silent, this narrative sticks." Marcus rubbed his face. "What about the permit?" Theo sighed. Paper shields only work when someone respects paper. After the call ended, Marcus sat at the small desk by the window. Outside, the street was ordinary. Cars passing, people walking dogs, life continuing as if last night hadn't happened. Lena hovered near the door. "What are you going to do?" Marcus looked up at her. "I'm going to City Hall." She blinked. "Today?" "Yes." At City Hall, the air felt colder. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead as Marcus stood at the counter. Permit folder laid open like evidence in a trial no one wanted to hold. The clerk barely glanced at it. "You'll need to submit a written inquiry," she said. "I already did," Marcus replied. "Last night. This is a follow-up." She typed slowly. Too slowly. The officer involved documented noncompliance. "I complied," Marcus said evenly. She finally looked up. Her expression softened, not with sympathy, but with resignation. Sir, I'm just telling you what's on record. Who put it there? Marcus asked. She hesitated, then lowered her voice. You should talk to the department. At the precinct, Marcus waited for 40 minutes before a supervisor appeared. Captain Wallace. Crisp uniform. Careful smile. I understand you're upset, Wallace said, folding his hands. But Officer Grant acted within his discretion. Based on what? Marcus asked. Community safety, Wallace replied smoothly. Noise complaints. Escalation risk. I was de-escalating, Marcus said. Your officer grabbed my wrist on stage. Wallace nodded slowly. That's not reflected in his report. Marcus leaned forward. So his word is law. Wallace met his gaze. His word is documentation. Outside, Marcus exhaled hard. His phone buzzed again in news alert. Police say DJ ignored multiple warnings before event shutdown. He stared at the headline. Across town, Officer Grant sat in the break room, laughing with another cop, watching the same clip. Man, the other cop said, you handled that clean. Grant shrugged. Just doing my job. Marcus stood alone on the steps of City Hall, permit folder still in his hand, realizing something fundamental. This wasn't about volume. It was about who the system believed, and who it never would, unless forced. Marcus had learned early that names carried weight. Faces did too. So he kept us out of rooms where decisions were made. Years before the stage lights and city permits, Marcus stood in a cramped basement studio with peeling paint and borrowed speakers, watching a 17-year-old rapper pour truth into a mic that crackled every time the bass hit. The kid's hands shook. His voice didn't. That's it. Marcus had said then, calm, certain. That's the sound. The rapper blinked. You serious? I don't say things I don't mean, Marcus replied. Back then, he didn't have money. He had timing. He had ears. He had a gift for seeing what others overlooked. Talent without polish. Brilliance without backing. He built his record label the way some men built shelter. Quietly, carefully, piece by piece. He didn't put his face on the website. He didn't give interviews. He didn't attend award shows. Contracts bore his signature, not his smile. Artists ask sometimes, why don't you come out with us? Marcus would shrug. Someone has to keep the lights on. The truth was simpler and heavier. Visibility had a price. In conference rooms, executives assumed he was the assistant. At mixers, people spoke slower when they spoke to him at all. Once, a venue owner asked if he could get the real boss on the phone. Marcus smiled and made the call to himself. Power worked better when underestimated. The label grew anyway. Gold records, platinum plaques, stacked in a storage unit Marcus rarely visited. He reinvested, diversified, built distribution software no one associated with his name. His money moved silently, legally, efficiently. When police drove past his office at night, they never looked twice. He liked it that way. That anonymity let him walk through cities without armor. Let him stand behind DJ booths without explanation. Let him be just another man doing his job, until someone decided he didn't belong there. The memory of the officer's hand on his wrist replayed without warning. Marcus stopped walking. He was halfway down the block from his hotel, the city humming around him, when his phone rang again. This time it was Ava. I told you this would happen eventually, she said without greeting. Ava had been his first partner, his first argument, his first check written large enough to scare him. I know, Marcus said. You stayed invisible too long, she continued. You let them decide who you were. I didn't let anyone, Marcus replied. I chose. And that choice protected you, Ava said, until it didn't. Marcus leaned against a brick wall, the cool seeping through his jacket. You think this changes anything? It already has, she said. Artists are calling me. Sponsors too. They want reassurance. Reassurance of what? That you're not a problem. Marcus laughed softly. Funny, I wasn't the one causing trouble. Ava sighed. That's not how systems work. After the call, Marcus sat on a bench outside the hotel and watched the police car crawl past. The officer inside didn't look at him. Just another black man on a bench. Nothing to see. He thought of every meeting where his presence had shifted the room. Tension first, curiosity second, respect last, if ever. He thought of how often he'd chosen distance over confrontation. Distance was safer. But safety, he was learning, was conditional. A message came in from one of his artists. They're asking if we're going to say something. If you're okay. Marcus typed back slowly. I'm okay. Don't speak yet. He stared at the send button before pressing it. Invisibility had always been a strategy. A way to build without interference. A way to survive without explanation. But last night proved something else. You could own the system and still be treated like you rented space in it. And when the silence came, the kind that followed power flex publicly, anonymity didn't shield you. It erased you. Marcus stood, decision settling in his chest like a weight he would have to carry forward. If they needed a face to believe the truth, then eventually he would give them one. But not yet. Not until the cost was clear. The statement dropped at 9:07 a.m. Marcus saw it first not from the police department's website, but from a screenshot sent by an intern who didn't know what else to do. City police statement. Officers responded to multiple noise complaints at a permitted community event. The DJ involved failed to comply with repeated verbal warnings and became argumentative, requiring officers to shut down the event to ensure public safety. Marcus read it twice, then a third time, argumentative. He sat at the long dining table in his apartment, untouched coffee cooling beside his laptop. Outside, the city moved on schedule, garbage trucks, joggers, sirens in the distance, as if this version of events had always existed. His phone rang again. This is bad, Lena said the moment he answered. They're calling it routine enforcement. Routine, Marcus echoed. They're positioning you as the problem, she continued. Not the shutdown, not the handling. You. Marcus scrolled through social media. The clip was everywhere now, reposted with captions that bent the story just enough to snap it in half. If he'd just listened, why do they always argue? Police have a hard job. The comment sections blurred together. He stopped reading when he reached one that said, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. His lawyer called next. They move fast, Theo said. That's intentional. So it sticks, Marcus replied. Yes. First story becomes truth. Marcus leaned back in his chair. Can we challenge it? We can, Theo said. But understand this. The department isn't defending accuracy. They're defending authority. And the officer? Theo paused. He's being commended internally for de-escalation. Marcus laughed once. Short, bitter. He put his hands on me. I know, Theo said quietly. But that's not on camera. Marcus closed his eyes. It never is. By noon, a local news station ran the story. The anchor's voice was smooth, practiced. Police say the DJ ignored repeated warnings. They cut to footage, not a confrontation, but the crowd dispersing. Disorder without context. Silence reframed as chaos. At the precinct, Officer Grant watched in the break room, arms crossed. Told you to blow over, another officer said. Guy didn't know when to shut up. Grant smirked. They never do. His supervisor walked in, nodding once. Nice work keeping it controlled. Grant shrugged, just enforcing the rules. Back at Marcus's apartment, Ava stood by the window, phone pressed to her ear, fielding calls. They want to know if the label's involved, she said after hanging up. If this becomes a bigger thing. Marcus looked up. A bigger thing than what? Than a black DJ being argumentative, she replied carefully. Marcus stood and walked toward the window. From 10 floors up, people looked like pieces on a board. Predictable. Small. They're asking me to apologize, he said. Ava turned sharply. For what? For misunderstanding the officer's instructions, Marcus replied. They say it would help calm things down. Ava stared at him. They want you to confess to make them comfortable. Marcus nodded. They always do. Silence stretched between them. What happens if you don't? Ava asked. They keep pushing this version, Marcus said, until it becomes permanent. And if you do? Marcus met her eyes. I disappear. Later that evening, Marcus received an email from the city's Cultural Affairs office. We regret the disruption to the event. However, future permits may be subject to additional review. He deleted it. The phone buzzed again, a message from an artist he'd signed 5 years earlier. They're saying you were disrespectful. I know that's not you, but my team's nervous. Marcus typed slowly. I understand. Protect your work. He set the phone down and stared at his reflection in the darkened screen. The official story was clean, efficient, designed to leave no fingerprints. It didn't mention the grip on his wrist, didn't mention the tone, didn't mention the way compliance still hadn't been enough. By nightfall, the narrative had settled like concrete, and Marcus understood something with painful clarity. Silence wasn't neutrality. Silence was surrender, unless it was broken at the right moment, with the right weight, by the right name. Somewhere across the city, Officer Grant slept easily, confident the system had spoken for him. Marcus did not sleep at all. The calls came in waves. First the sponsors, then the partners, then the artists who didn't know whether to be loyal or afraid. Marcus at his desk, legal pad filling with names he circled, underlined, crossed out, pressure mapped in ink. Ava paced the room. Phone pressed her ear again. No, we're not issuing a statement yet, she said. Yes, I understand the optics. No, that's not acceptable. She hung up and turned to Marcus. They're nervous. Of course they are, Marcus said. Fear spreads faster than facts. A notification popped up on his laptop. Sponsorship review pending. Who? Marcus asked. Ava glanced at the screen. 2 brands. Both say it's temporary. Temporary was the word institutions used when they wanted time to decide whether you were worth the inconvenience. Marcus's phone buzzed. It was Jamal, one of his newest signings. They're telling me to distance myself, Jamal said without preamble. Not you, the situation. Marcus closed his eyes. What do you want to do? A pause. I don't want to lose everything I just built. Marcus nodded, though Jamal couldn't see him. Then do what you need to do. You sure? Yes. After the call, Marcus stared at the wall where framed contracts hung like quiet trophies. Each represented a gamble he'd taken on someone the industry overlooked. Now the industry was reminding him of the cost of defiance. At the precinct, Officer Grant leaned back in his chair as a commendation email circulated. No ceremony, just recognition among peers. Good work keeping things from escalating, the message read. Grant smiled. Escalation was what they called anything that questioned them. His sergeant clapped him on the shoulder. You handled it by the book. Grant nodded. Guy wanted attention. Across town, Marcus met with Theo again. They're tightening screws, Theo said. Financially, professionally, subtly. Is it legal? Marcus asked. Theo shrugged. That's the trick. Pressure without fingerprints. Marcus leaned forward. What happens if I speak now? They'll say you're retaliating, Theo replied, that you're leveraging wealth. And if I don't, they'll keep bleeding you quietly. Marcus laughed under his breath. So silence cost me and speech cost me. Theo met his gaze. Welcome to the middle. That night, Marcus attended a small industry mixer he'd planned to skip. He moved through the room unnoticed at first. Just another man in a dark jacket. Drink untouched. 2 executives stood nearby, voices low but careless. Did you see that DJ thing? One asked. Yeah, the other replied. Not a good look. They always push it, the first said, then cry racism. Marcus didn't turn. He didn't flinch. He memorized their voices. Later, one of them brushed past him and frowned. Sorry, man. Thought you were someone else. Marcus smiled. Happens all the time. Outside, rain slicked the pavement. Marcus stood under the awning, phone buzzing again. This time, it was a journalist. Mr. Reed, she said carefully. We're investigating inconsistencies in the police report. Marcus's pulse steadied. And there are gaps, she continued. Body cam footage that doesn't line up. Permit records that contradict the statement. Marcus said nothing. We like your comment, she added. Silence stretched. I'm considering it, Marcus said finally. After the call, Ava joined him under the awning. You okay? No, Marcus said, but I'm clear. About what? About where the pressure is coming from, he replied. And why? Ava studied him. You're going to step forward. Yes, Marcus said, but not as a DJ. He looked out at the rain-soaked street, headlights blurring into streaks of white and red. They made this about behavior, he continued. About compliance. I'm going to make it about power. Ava nodded slowly. Once you do, there's no going back. Marcus met her eyes. I know. Somewhere, Officer Grant scrolled through comments praising police restraint, unaware that the story was shifting beneath his feet. Pressure worked both ways, and Marcus was done absorbing it alone. The email arrived without ceremony. No subject line, no logo, just a name Marcus recognized in a single sentence. We need to talk. Off the record. Marcus read it twice before forwarding it to Theo and Ava. They're ready, Ava said when they joined the call, which means someone else is nervous. Theo nodded. Journalists don't dig this deep unless there's something to find. Marcus leaned back in his chair. What do they find? Theo pulled up a document. Body cam metadata. Timestamps that don't match the report. A missing 38 seconds. Enough to matter? Marcus asked. Enough to ask why, Theo replied. And why is dangerous. The meeting happened in a quiet cafe far from downtown. No cameras. No recorders on the table. The journalist, Maya, arrived alone, notebook tucked under her arm. Thank you for coming, she said. I know you were advised not to. Marcus met her gaze. I wasn't advised to stay silent. I was warned. Maya nodded. There's a difference. She slid a photocopy across the table. This is a permit. Approved until 10. Amplified sound included. Marcus didn't touch it. They know that. Yes, Maya said, which is why the report doesn't mention time. She flipped a page. Officer Grant's body cam activates at 8:41. The report says verbal warnings began at 8:30. Marcus felt something settle into place. So the warnings don't exist. Or they exist only on paper, Maya replied. What about the wrist? Marcus asked. Maya hesitated. There's a gap. 38 seconds. Camera obstructed. Theo had warned him about this. How truth arrived in fragments, never whole. Why are you telling me this? Marcus asked. Maya held his gaze. Because they're building a narrative that collapses if someone with credibility challenges it. Marcus exhaled slowly. You want me on record? Yes. And if I am? They'll say you're leveraging influence, Maya said, that you're retaliating. Marcus smiled faintly. They're already saying that. Just quietly. Maya nodded. Then let's be precise. That evening, Marcus stood in his apartment, suit jacket laid across a chair, phone pressed his ear. You're sure? Jamal asked. Once they know it's you. They already know who I am, Marcus replied. They just didn't think it mattered. Ava entered the room, holding her tablet. The outlet's solid. They'll run the piece tomorrow morning. Marcus closed his eyes. Include everything. Your ownership? Ava asked. Yes. The label? Theo added. Yes. The footage gaps? Ava pressed. All of it, Marcus said. No spin. The article went live at 6:12 a.m. Who owns the beat? Questions rise after police shut down at city event. By 6:20, Marcus's phone was ringing nonstop. Artists, executives, reporters. Messages stacked faster than he could read. At the precinct, Officer Grant's sergeant stared at the screen, jaw tight. You didn't mention the permit time, he said. Grant shifted in his chair. Didn't seem relevant. And the body cam gap? Grant swallowed. Malfunction. The sergeant didn't respond. Across the city, news anchor spoke Marcus's name for the first time, not as a DJ, but as an owner, award-winning producer, founder of one of the fastest-growing independent labels. major investor in city arts initiatives. The comment sections changed tone. Wait, he owns it? Why was he treated like that? This doesn't add up. Marcus watched from his couch. Coffee untouched again. Ava sat beside him, scrolling. They're backtracking, she said. The department's issuing a clarification. Theo's voice came through speakerphone. Internal Affairs opened a review. Marcus closed his eyes. Not relief, not satisfaction, recognition. This was how truth moved, not cleanly, not kindly, but because pressure finally met resistance. At the precinct, Officer Grant sat alone in an interview room, hands folded, confidence thinning. Did you grab his wrist? An investigator asked. Grant hesitated. I was maintaining control. The investigator looked down at the notes. Control of what? Grant didn't answer. Marcus stood at his window as the city woke fully, sunlight cutting through buildings that had watched him be small for so long. He hadn't raised his voice. He hadn't thrown a punch. He hadn't begged to be believed. He had simply stepped into the light, and the system, exposed to it, had begun to crack. The room felt different the moment Marcus walked in. City Hall hearings were usually predictable. Long tables, tired officials, a rhythm designed to drain urgency from truth. Marcus had sat in rooms like this before, unnoticed, waiting while others spoke for him. Today, every chair was filled. Every camera was on. Officer Grant sat at the opposite table, uniform pressed, posture rigid. He did not look at Marcus. The council chair cleared her throat. This hearing concerns the events surrounding the shutdown of the Riverside Block Party and the subsequent police report. Marcus folded his hands in front of him, calm, measured, the way power learned to speak when it had nothing to prove. Grant's attorney spoke first. My client acted in accordance with department policy to ensure public safety. The phrase floated into the room, familiar and hollow. Marcus's lawyer stood next. Public safety does not excuse public humiliation, Theo said, nor does it justify false documentation. A murmur rippled through the audience. The council chair nodded. Mr. Reed, you may speak. Marcus stood. He felt the shift then, subtle, unmistakable. Phones lifted. Pens paused. This was not the DJ from a shaky clip. This was the man whose name now carried weight. I complied with every instruction given to me, Marcus said. His voice was steady, not loud. I lowered the volume. I stepped away from the equipment. I did not argue. He paused. Let silence work. I was still treated as a threat. Grant shifted in his chair. Marcus continued. When I asked for clarification, I was labeled uncooperative. When I complied, I was physically restrained. When I stayed silent afterward, I was framed. The council chair leaned forward. Officer Grant, would you like to respond? Grant cleared his throat. The situation was escalating. Marcus turned toward him for the first time. Based on what? Grant hesitated. Cameras zoomed. The crowd, Grant said. The volume. His attitude. Marcus nodded slowly. My attitude, he repeated. Is that documented? Grant's jaw tightened. No. Is my wrist being grabbed documented? Marcus asked. No. Is the missing body cam footage documented? Grant said nothing. The room held its breath. A council member spoke up. Officer, were you aware of Mr. Reed's identity at the time? Grant answered quickly. No. Marcus smiled faintly. Exactly. The words landed heavier than accusation. This isn't about who I am, Marcus said, turning back to the council. It's about who I was assumed to be. A reporter whispered. That's the line. To no one in particular. Marcus sat down. The council chair called a recess. In the hallway, journalists swarmed. Microphones pushed forward. Mr. Reed, do you feel vindicated? Is this about race? Are you suing the department? Marcus raised a hand. The crowd quieted. This is about accountability, he said, and about systems that only correct themselves when exposed. Inside the hearing room, Grant sat alone. His sergeant leaned down, voice low. You should have followed procedure, he said. I did, Grant replied. The sergeant shook his head. You followed habit. When the council reconvened, The tone had shifted again. "The evidence raises serious concerns," the chair said, "regarding documentation, use of force, and departmental response." Grant's attorney whispered urgently. Grant stared straight ahead. The council voted unanimously to recommend disciplinary action and refer the case to an independent review board. Not justice. Not yet, but consequence. Outside, Marcus stood on the steps of City Hall as the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the stone. Ava joined him. "You changed the room." Marcus exhaled. "The room was always like that. It just didn't expect me." Officer Grant exited moments later, avoiding cameras, shoulders tense. For the first time, no one congratulated him. As Marcus watched Grant disappear into the crowd, there was no triumph, only clarity. Power didn't announce itself. It revealed itself when the room finally had to listen. Consequences did not arrive like a verdict. They came quietly, in memos, in calendar updates. In meetings, Officer Grant was no longer invited to attend. The department announced a decision on a Tuesday afternoon, buried beneath other news. Officer placed on administrative leave pending review. No admission of wrongdoing. No apology. Just distance. Grant read the email twice at his kitchen table. The hum of the refrigerator suddenly loud. Administrative leave. Paid for now. He told himself it wasn't punishment. It was protocol. Still, his phone stayed silent. At the precinct, lockers whispered. Conversations stopped when he entered. The sergeant who once clapped his shoulder now nodded stiffly, eyes already elsewhere. "You'll be contacted by Internal Affairs," the sergeant said. "Don't discuss the case." Grant swallowed. "Am I being charged?" The sergeant hesitated. "Not yet." "Not yet" echoed louder than any accusation. Across town, Marcus sat in a therapist's office for the first time in years. "I don't feel relieved," Marcus said, staring at the plant by the window. "Everyone expects me to." The therapist nodded. "What do you feel?" "Tired," Marcus replied. "And exposed." "Because you spoke?" "Because I had to," Marcus said. Because silence wasn't allowed anymore. He thought of the nights after the hearing, sleep fractured by replayed moments, the grip on his wrist, the officer's tone, the crowd watching. Justice hadn't erased those. Outside the office, Ava waited. "The board's moving forward," she said. "They're reviewing Grant's past complaints." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "There were others?" Ava nodded. "Informal ones, never substantiated." Marcus looked away. "There always are." Sponsors called back, cautious but apologetic. Contracts were reinstated with new language. Artists stopped whispering, but some damaged in reverse. A venue quietly declined a future booking. A city grant application stalled. A donor asked for less controversy next quarter. Marcus took it in stride. He'd expected that. That evening, a message appeared in his inbox from an unfamiliar address. "I watched the hearing. I didn't think what happened to you was right. I'm sorry." No name, no signature. Marcus stared at it for a long time before closing the laptop. At home, Grant poured himself a drink he didn't want. The television played quietly, a panel discussing police accountability. One of the commentators said, "This case highlights systemic issues." Grant scoffed. "Systemic," he muttered. "They act like I'm the system." His phone buzzed. A text from his brother. "Saw the news. You okay?" Grant typed, then erased. Typed again. "They're overreacting." The response came slower this time. "Maybe, but did you grab him?" Grant set the phone down without answering. He replayed the moment in his mind. The stage. The crowd. The man's calm. His own irritation. The assumption, unexamined, automatic. Control. The word tasted different now. At a press conference days later, the police chief spoke carefully. "We take these matters seriously," he said. "We are committed to rebuilding trust." Marcus watched from his office, arms crossed. Trust wasn't rebuilt with statements. It was rebuilt with restraint. Later that night, Marcus attended a small listening session at his label. No press, no speeches, just music and conversation. An artist approached him quietly. "I didn't know how heavy it was," she said. "Watching you up there." Marcus nodded. "Neither did I." "You okay now?" Marcus considered the question. "I'm standing," he said. "That's something." Outside, the city hummed on. Grant sat alone in his apartment, staring at a badge laid carefully on the table. He didn't know if he would wear it again. Marcus stood on his balcony, the night air cool against his skin, thinking about cost. Justice hadn't restored what was taken, his ease, his anonymity, his illusion of safety, but it had drawn a line. And for the first time since the music stopped, Marcus felt something close to resolution. Not because the system had saved him, but because it had been forced to see him. The music came back without announcement. No flyers flooded social media. No sponsors' logos framed the stage. Just a location shared quietly, a time agreed upon through trust rather than permits alone. Marcus arrived early. The venue was smaller this time, an old warehouse repurposed by artists who understood caution. Soft lights hung from exposed beams. The sound system was tested twice, then tested again. Every cable lay exactly where it should. Marcus stood behind the booth, hands resting on the edge, breathing in the familiar scent of dust, metal, and electricity. "You don't have to do this," Ava said softly, standing beside him. Marcus smiled. "I know." Artists filtered in. Community members. A few city officials who didn't ask for special treatment. No uniforms. No barricades. Just people. When the room filled, Marcus lifted the headphones and slipped them on. For a moment, he hesitated. The memory rose uninvited. The sudden cut, the silence, the grip. His chest tightened. Then he pressed play. The first beat rolled out low and deliberate, not loud, not defiant. Intentional. The room responded slowly, bodies swaying, conversations fading. No rush. No spectacle. Music reclaimed space the way it always had. Patiently, Marcus watched the crowd, eyes scanning faces not for threats, but for connection. Someone laughed. Someone closed their eyes. Someone lifted a phone, then lowered it again. This wasn't content. This was presence. Halfway through the set, Marcus stepped back and let another DJ take over. He moved into the crowd, nodding to familiar faces. "You good?" Jamal asked, clapping him on the shoulder. Marcus nodded. "I am." "You changed things," Jamal said. "For all of us." Marcus shook his head. "I named them." Across the room, a projector flickered to life. Not with branding, but with credits. Names of artists, engineers, volunteers, the people who made sound possible. At the bottom, in small type, "This space is protected by community." No logos, no slogans, just truth. Across the city, Officer Grant sat on his couch, television off, scrolling through his phone. He'd been officially suspended without pay that morning. The letter sat unopened on the table. He paused on a clip someone had reposted. Not the confrontation, but the new event. The music. The crowd. Grant watched for a long time. There was no anger in his chest now. Just something heavier. Recognition, maybe, or regret, unnamed. He closed the app. Back at the warehouse, the final song slowed the room to stillness. Marcus stepped back behind the booth, took the mic for the first time that night. He didn't raise his voice. "Thank you," he said simply. The crowd answered with applause, not explosive, not performative. Steady. Marcus set the mic down. As people filtered out, one woman stopped in front of him. Older. Calm. "I was there," she said. "That first night." Marcus nodded. "I remember." "I didn't say anything," she admitted. "I wish I had." Marcus met her eyes. "You're here now." She smiled, relieved. Later, when the warehouse emptied, Marcus stayed behind, helping coil cables, stack chairs. Ordinary work. Grounding. The music had returned, but it wasn't the same. Neither was he. He knew the cost now, not just what power demanded, but what it exposed. He had lost anonymity, lost comfort, lost the illusion that success could insulate him from assumption. But he had gained something steadier. Clarity. Outside, the city breathed around him. imperfect, unfinished. Marcus locked the warehouse door and stepped into the night, headphones hanging loose around his neck. The beat echoed faintly in his chest, not loud enough to draw attention, strong enough to keep time. And this time, when the music ended, the silence did not belong to anyone else. It belonged to him.